the Ghana cedi has been appreciating against its
It's been appreciating the dollar.
Appreciating against its trade partners. I think that's the word to use, quite well. And if you look, for example, at the numbers, a couple of months ago, you needed about 16 cedis. Indeed, at the turn of the year, you need about 16 cedis to buy the US dollar. By April, you needed 15.46 cedis to buy the dollar. As of May 9th, which is just this Friday, you needed just 13.15 cedis to buy the dollar. So you can say that the cedi has appreciated quite significantly over the past few months. Now, the Ghana Union Traders Association, led by Dr. Joseph Obing, has issued a statement welcoming this development and calling on its members to do the needful. He says, bring down your prices as the cedi appreciates. Dr. Obing, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my brother.
I haven't spoken to you this year. To Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, my brother. I think we were at the Economic
Forum, yes. But today is the first time hosting you on my show. So
yeah, it's true.
Wonderful. So, usually when the prices are high, I call you and I ask you why your people are translating the cedi depreciation into increased prices, and you try and explain to me that it's because a lot of your inputs are imported and sometimes the dollar affects everything. So I was happy to see that you had written to your members advising them to lower prices after the cedi's appreciation. So give me some context. How long has the cedi appreciated, and why did you think it was necessary to tell your members to reduce prices?
Yeah, we have an obligation to do that. We have to show good faith to the consuming public. With the business that we do, we are not doing in isolation. We are doing with the consuming public, our customers. It is important to recognize that when the consumer is unable to buy, when the purchasing power is very low, it is unable to buy, it affects our turnover. Business thrives on turnover. So it is very important that we make sure that we share the gains with our customers or consuming public so that we can also thrive even as business. So that's the reason why the gain that we are having here is quite significant. And then we can also predict. Sometimes you cannot predict, even if the price there's reduction, and then people have to do wait and see. But in this particular one, the trend keep going, and then it gives us the comfort for us to even adjust our prices. It's very important. That's why we are calling on our members, even though there are other challenges that people have bought the goods in the old rate and all that, but we are not in a monopolistic market. Ours is a highly competitive market. What is old at the old price, others have gotten it at a cheaper price. So we have to strike reasonable averages for us to remain in competition and also be able to pass on some of the gains. And that's why we are appealing to our members. But you should recognize that there are other factors that government also have to do. We still have to revise the VAT. We have to restructure the VAT, revise it, as the finance minister has said. And then also, there are other things that also may negate these gains, like the increment in the tariffs and all that. I think that one is not justified. The fact that they cited the exchange rate as a reason for the increment. Now the exchange rate has come down. The government have to do, as a matter of urgency, talk to PURC to adjust their prices so that it does not negate some of these gains. And so for us, we think we have to show good faith to the consuming public. Because whenever we are crying that exchange rate is high, taxes that we pay are high, we do this call with them. And that way we don't have any choice, but morally we have to do this.
Right. So how many members do you have, and how far will this go? Because did you sort of write to them? Did you hold a meeting and tell them? How do you hope that this communication will go down to the whole country?
Bernard, you know that this is not a price, we are not in a price control regime, and nobody can tell anybody to reduce or up its prices. All that we are doing is urging the members of the trading community. When it comes to GUTA, you see, whether we have 78 to 80 trade associations under GUTA. And so various associations are under GUTA, and it's very wide. Some of them are necessarily not even registered with this, but whatever thing that we see, they also comply and all that. So it's a huge body. And then normally it has been accepted that we talk for traders. And so whatever thing we say, go to the generality of the trading community.
By the way, give me a sense of what type of people are in GUTA. What products are they selling? Is it just spare parts? Is it who are the people?
We have Ghana National Spare Parts Dealers Association. You see the Abusu Kai, the Swami Magazine, and all that. This is one unit of association under GUTA. GUTA is not individual membership. It's an association for various associations. It's a union for various associations. So we have Ghana Electrical Dealers Association. That's where I belong. I used to be the president of Ghana Electrical Dealers Association. We have Ghana Confectionery Dealers Association. We have the Second-Hand Clothing Dealers Association. We have Ghana Textile Dealers Association, confectioneries, haberdashery, so many sectors under those who sell electronics, the Musical Instrument Association, the Stationery Dealers Association. So they are all various associations that come out to form this union called GUTA. Yeah.
This is very good that you've announced this. But as a businessman with experience, how long do you expect the current dollar, the cedi strengthening to last? I'm asking this for two reasons. You remember that when MPP took over in 2017, there was a period that the cedi also did well. And I think the then vice president even said that, he had arrested the dollar and put the key with the IGP. Of course, later events will show that it was not sustained. Based on what you know about currencies, it's been, I think, 2-3 months of some strengthening. How long do you expect this to continue?
You see, the fact that it's going down is very important. But the most important is how it can be sustained. If even it's at 13 and it's sustained for a longer period of time, that's how business thrives. But if it goes down and goes up and all that, that one, it does not ensure predictability. But then it all depends on government attitude and then the fiscal discipline, what Bank of Ghana do and all that. And then the control systems. This time we have the advantage, it has dropped, and that whatever fiscal disciplines that we have to adopt, monetary policies that we have to adopt to make sure that we're able to sustain this. But Ben, you are a journalist. Let me tell you, an economist will come to you or go to government and say that the fall of the dollar does not help export, does not do this. And so many confusing theories will come from some economists and all that, go and confuse government and all that. And you see that at a point they will want to devalue the strength of the cedi, because people think that it has to be done to enhance on export and all that, which is not true, because we have to be competitive. We are heading towards industrialization, and we do not have to overprice the output of our industries, because we are in competition with other countries and all that. And so it is very important that government know the essence of this reduction in the forest to show to up its agenda on the 24-hour economy and all that. It is upon this basis that we are going to succeed. And that's why I'm also calling that other areas like other taxes and then the utility cost and all that should be looked at so that the 24-hour economy should not be shot in the foot. This is a good beginning for the 24-hour economy, for which many people, traders, most of us want to migrate into manufacturing and all that. And so it is good indicator for now. Yeah.
Finally, you mentioned the VAT and the need to recalibrate. There was also a tax that the NDC promised to remove. I think it's a tax on salvage vehicles or something. There was a tax on imported cars of a certain age. And some of the vehicle people say that tax is not helping them at all because not everybody can buy a new car. I don't know if GUTA is interested in that discussion and what you think should be done.
Yeah, it is very important because the spare parts dealers have been talking over this for quite a long time because they thought they were doing this to make the new car assembling companies strive here in Ghana, but it was very negative because it was not even helping us even to bring these salvage goods and then use our own ingenuity to assemble them. That's another learning platform for those people in that industry and all that. So that one too is very important. The president in his talk stressed that, emphasized that you will remove those taxes, and we are expecting that you redeem those promises to enhance on those activities at the spare parts.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for being president of GUTA, urging his members, who is really a federation because there are many associations under GUTA, asking them to reduce prices. He's not recommending a specific price range because we are not in a price control regime, but he's saying that the right thing to do is to reduce prices. Now, the tax I was referring to is the taxes and levies on vehicles and equipment imported into the country. And indeed, Mr. Muhammad promised that within his first 90 days, and obviously, he will review those taxes. He also promised to review the e-levy, which he has done. He's cancelled it. COVID levy is still there because it's part of the VAT, although some people think he could have removed it immediately. 10% levy on bet winnings has also been removed. Emissions levy as well being discussed. So it's 8:34 on the Cedi Breakfast Show. Now, one of the things I need to cross is two things, actually. What is leading to the reduction in the dollar cost? Because exchange rate is really the price of the dollar, right? So I always say that everything has to do with the price of food, the price of currency. So the interest rate is the price of credit. Exchange rate is the price of dollar or pound or euro. What is leading to the recent surge? I'll speak to an economist about this. But then there's a story in the news center that's worrying me.
Yeah,
Elvis Dakus, what is he saying?
He's saying that the Cedi will resume its depreciation in late 2025.
Why?
And he's quoting S&P. The Cedi is expected to revert to a part of depreciation from the second half of 2025, according to a new report by S&P Global Rating. It forecasts renewed currency pressure amidst persistent fiscal and structural weakness. Now, the report comes just months after the Cedi posted a 9.6 appreciation against the US dollar between January and April this year, buoyed by record trade surpluses, rising remittances, and an influx of foreign exchange from gold exports. But S&P warns that these gains could be short-lived. So a managed float facing mounting pressures. S&P attributes the Cedi's short-term stability to Ghana's managed float regime, under which the Bank of Ghana intermittently intervenes in the foreign exchange market to control volatility. While the central bank's interventions have helped shore up confidence and narrow exchange rate spreads, S&P cautions that underlying vulnerabilities remain unresolved. So, quote, the recent appreciation of the Cedi is not likely to persist. We anticipate continued depreciation from the second half of 2025 as structural imbalances, inflationary persistence, and fiscal constraints reassert themselves. Now, at the core of Ghana's macroeconomic pressure is stubbornly high inflation. Although the pace of price increases has moderated from earlier peaks. Inflation remains well above the Bank of Ghana's official target band of 6 to 10%, a trend S&P expects to persist until at least 2028. Now, elevated inflation has weakened consumer purchasing power and eroded business profitability. Meanwhile, the banking sector, though recapitalized in 2023 following the domestic debt restructuring, is showing signs of strain. Non-performing loans rose from 21.8% by the end of 2024, up from 20.6% in 2023, underscoring lingering credit risk in the system. Nevertheless, S&P believes the sector remains adequately stabilized. So there are sectors on debt service cost still being a major drag. Gold and remittances lift external buffers for now. Political and social uncertainties cloud reform prospects. Debt restructuring boosts ratings, but risks remain. Outlook stable but fragile. Growth remains resilient amidst constraints. So a bit of that. Despite its many challenges, Ghana's economy has shown surprising resilience. Real GDP growth reached 5.7% in 2024, its highest rate since 2019, driven by a rebound in the industrial and services sector. While the government's gold purchase program has boosted formal trade and FX earnings, S&P cautions that growth sustainability depends on the success of fiscal reforms and effective public investment. Moreover, the agricultural sector remains fragile. Cocoa production is increasingly threatened by erratic weather patterns, plant diseases, and competition for labor, as well as land from unregulated gold mining activities.
Okay.
So our outlook is stable, but it remains fragile.
Fragile.
Fragile. So S&P's stable outlook on Ghana's ratings reflect the delicate balance between improving external buffers and ongoing fiscal reforms on one hand, and elevated debt service cost, inflation, and untested fiscal institutions on the other.
Okay. So basically, the point is that things are looking good, but there are some structural things that need to change if we are to sustain these gains. So you're saying that by last quarter of the year, the city can start depreciating again. So I think it's also good advice for us to do some things. Now, I need to say that the Cedi is doing pretty well. Inflation is also at an 8-month low. So the 21.2% inflation in April is the lowest it's been since sometime in September. All right. Non-food inflation came down to 17.9%, down from 18.7%. And then, of course, the currency has strengthened almost 16% against the dollar since the start of April. It's the world best performing currency according to data compiled by Bloomberg. Food inflation also reduced from 26.5 to 25%. Now, we don't know whether the central bank will lower the interest rate or not, because in the previous announcement, they sort of kept it at the same. In fact, they actually raised the rate by 100 basis points. So that's something we should keep an eye on. But Ghana's Cedi is doing pretty well. Last Friday I was telling you that the other currencies are also strengthened against the US dollar.
True.
So I feel like it's not just. So there are two things. The Ghanaian Cedi strengthening against the dollar. There are two drivers. There could be the fact that the US dollar itself, because of the tariffs that Trump has put on many countries, a lot of people are moving away from the dollar. So most major currencies are appreciating against the dollar. But the level of Cedi appreciation is higher than the others. So there are obviously domestic factors.
Right.
So we have to be fair to the analysis. So the dollar itself has weakened, but there are other things we are doing
Domestically.
which have made our performance against the dollar much better than others are doing.
Right.
Which is what I'll probably speak to an economist to give us some highlights on. Some people believe that the budget that Atuforsin read was quite good in terms of its intentions to lower the deficit by cutting expenditure and raising revenue. So that's the first signal that usually the markets get when they want to give an outlook for your currency. All right. The fact that the IMF program is also going pretty well, and the government's comments around the IMF program suggest stability. So they look at your budget, they look at IMF program, and of course there's a new government. So generally the market responds positively to that. And of course there's also the gold issue. The fact that our gold, because I think the major challenge with gold was that, and not just with gold, the major problem in Ghana is that we are not able to retain our foreign exchange earnings. So usually on paper, Ghana could have exported, for example, $10 billion worth of gold. But the reserves that we have from those sales, the proceeds will get like maybe 4. So the way the gold board has sort of tried to sanitize the system means that because they are now the sole sort of buyer and seller, the state is able to retain more dollars. So that also increases your ability to have FX. And the more FX you have, the lower the price of the dollar. Because if Sky is importing fuel and the BOG can give him the amount he needs to import the fuel, the demand for the dollar that raises the price
It's low.
is lower.
Are you talking about the gold board or the initiative that saw the Bank of Ghana buy gold?
So they are both.
Yeah, because I mean the gold board is a recent.
But that's also part. So there's a certain sanitization of the gold export. So on the small scale side, which the gold board does, there's part of that, and then also on the one that you made reference to as well. So there are two things happening. All right. So the gold for FX and then the gold for reserve, both working together. In addition to the factors I've raised, plus the fact that the tariffs that Donald Trump has put out, also making a lot of people decide that, look, we don't even think that US dollar should be the only currency we should be demanding. So all of those, let me speak to people who know a lot more about this, Professor William Babwating, to give you some quick insights on what is happening with the currency and the calls by GUTA. So I'll start with the GUTA one, because I think I heard Prof. Babwating say last week that he doesn't understand why when the Cedi depreciates, traders are quick to raise prices. Yeah. But when the Cedi appreciates, traders don't want to do the needful. I think Dr. Joseph Obin listened to him, because today he's now telling us that he's written to his members to reduce prices. Whether that will work or not, we don't know. But let me start from there. Prof, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben, and thanks for calling me. And good morning to your colleagues.
Wonderful. So last week I heard you say somewhere that you don't understand why when the Cedi appreciates, traders don't do the needful. I think that Joseph Obin was listening to you, because he put out a statement over the weekend urging his members to lower their prices to reflect the recent strengthening of the US dollar. How effective that will be, we don't know. But I just wanted you to start from there. Why did you call out traders last week for not doing the needful when the Cedi appreciates?
Well, Ben, I understand that when the Cedi appreciates, importers will not reduce their price. That's what I understand, because you and I know that in economics, prices are flexible upwards and sticky downwards. So it's something that I know. But my concern was that because of some of these elements, as a country, we have to strive for stability, but not strive for appreciation or depreciation. And interestingly, when I monitored the media last week, everybody was talking about, at the exchange rate we have stability, when indeed it was appreciation. And there's a difference between stability, appreciation, and depreciation. So if importers takes a bit of time before they decide to reduce their prices, I don't have any problem with it, because if I were an importer, I would have done the same, because I'm a profit maximizer. And in the economy, everybody wants to get his pound of flesh. So as managers of the economy, what you do is that you try as much as possible to ensure stability. You work within a very small band so that everybody in the economy will be able to plan. Because whenever there is a shock, whether positive or negative, you will not be able to come to the original position. By all means, there will be some kind of gap. And therefore, that issue is what, as a country, we need to open discussions on.
So now that we have first thing, will you say what has happened to the Cedi between January and now is a sustained enough appreciation to merit any form of reaction from the importers?
Well, Looking at how the city is behaving, I think it's over about 2 weeks, moving from 15 to 13. We have to watch. And I am thinking around it, what might have caused this instant appreciation. And when you have the currency behaving that way, we have to be very, very cautious. I was listening to you. You were talking about new government coming in. You were talking about government effort in managing expenditure, and I keep saying that as an economist, I will not say cut expenditure. I rather say manage your expenditure. And I think from where I sit and observing, I think government is doing the needful by managing, as it were, the expenditure. Because if money gets into the hands of people not based on real value of it, you will have a problem. And I cannot also discount the gold bond issue, which is coming up. It's also a very big factor. And in all these, you cannot also discount the external factor. You know what President Trump is doing, the uncertainty in the global trade, and some countries moving from dollar to gold, and that has also pushed the dollar, the price of gold up, and so all these things, when you sum up, by all means, we will have some kind of benefit. Of course, I know people have also been talking about the fact that you cannot bring in the external, because why is it that we are appreciating, but Nigeria is depreciating? I mean, when you run regression and you look at all this, perhaps Nigeria is not doing something right, and therefore even the global trade issue, they will not even get the benefit. So you have to aggregate all these to be able to get it. And I am happy if we are able to stabilize our currency. So all these things are part of it. But my concern a bit is the appreciation is very sharp. And when the appreciation is sharp, you get a bit worried because you don't know what is down there. And we have to be cautious.
So maybe that all the things you've said have worked together at the same time, which is why the appreciation is sharp. But I get your point that stability is possibly better than a sharp depreciation or appreciation, because if the appreciation is sharp, if the factors don't remain the same, then it can also sort of reverse. So economic management requires more stability for predictability than... But of course, we are happy with appreciation because being an import-dependent economy is supposed to help also drive down inflation. So just your quick thoughts on those.
Yes, I think from that perspective, you may think that we are happy, but behind the happiness is a storm. Now, when you have appreciation and people are, it encourages imports, and let me put that way, as the SSS textbooks normally say, appreciation encourages imports and discourages export. You have to look at it in totality. When it appreciates like this, and even it reflects on domestic price, remember that on the other side of the market, there's a problem. Export is going to have a problem because now exporters are going to get fewer amount of money in cedis when they export. So when exporters realize that, well, it appears to us that we are not benefiting, you may find some exporters moving away from export and going into import. Secondly, domestic production may also have a problem because when you have more imports to come and compete with domestic market, remember that prices locally, inputs locally the prices may not have gone down. So domestic producers may be producing at a relatively higher price compared to what is coming from outside. So what is coming from outside will then come and, as it were, compete with the domestic market. And when that happens, domestic market is going to go down, and your C plus I plus G plus net export, which is X minus M, will then undermine our economic growth. So in totality, as time goes on, the dynamics will be that it will be counterproductive and it will reverse. And when it reverses, it becomes very difficult to now build your domestic production and build your exports to be able to counter the subsequent depreciation. And that is why the stability is where to go. Because in exchange rate market, we shouldn't analyze this from the static perspective that, it is appreciating. So the partial market for imports, fine, inflation is coming down. Everybody is happy. But in analyzing this, we have to look at the entirety of the economy and see whatever is happening on the export side, whatever is happening on the other side. Last week, I even made mention of the fact that even our cocoa board, they also have to readjust some of their terms because they've already given farmers how much they are going to pay them. Now, if it continues to appreciate, it means that cocoa board is going to get less in terms of cedis. And the gap between what they are paying farmers and what they have to be able to do their own thing will go down, and cocoa boards may have a problem in terms of losses. So we should not always jubilate when there is appreciation. And of course, when there is depreciation, you see exporters will also be jubilating. Those who are bringing remittances are happy. But now, those who are bringing remittances are also not happy because when they bring their remittances and they change it into cedis, they don't get the same amount of money that they wanted. And even from that angle, it's also going to drain remittances. Because if I have a project in Ghana and I'm living in the US, and I bring $1 and it is 15 cedis out its way, and it can buy one bag of cement. And then it comes down to 13 or 12. And I bring the same $1 and it gives me 12 cedis. But the price of cement has not changed to 12 cedis. It means that I have to work hard and add to the $1 before I can buy what I used to buy. So what will I do? I will decide to suspend my project. So it could also have effect on remittances coming in. So when you work out the dynamics, it will not be good for the economy. So I will suggest that managers of the economy, if we have enough and it's appreciating, as they intervene when we have depreciation, they have to have a way to make sure that it stays around a certain band so that it doesn't shake the entire structure.
So if I hear you, let's have a long-term view and also let's not be static. Let's look at it from a dynamic perspective. So in terms of that, what would you advise economic managers do to sustain, if not the appreciation, obviously to ensure that we don't go back to levels of depreciation we saw in 2022? Because as you said, the goal is stability. What do you think? So two things. Which government agency do you think has the lead role in currency stabilization? Is it the finance ministry? Is it the BOG? Or who? Which government agency do you think primarily should do things to help the currency be stable?
Well, I think BOG leads. So the Bank of Ghana is the one because they are mandated to look at the monetary policy and exchange rate policy. So they lead. But of course, the fiscal is very, very, very important. So my suggestion would be that if indeed what government is doing, trying to manage expenditure, is what is contributing to it, and that is one of the factors. And indeed, the gold and everything that we are buying is one of them. Then government can then sit down and say, okay, now I have been able to manage it. It's like aeroplane taking off. And when it gets to the cruising level, now I can think. Can I begin to think about whether to begin to pay some of my bills that I have held up, if indeed I've held some of them up? Will I be able to think about the debt exchange, those that I haven't paid them? Can I now decide because I have enough? If I have enough, then I can decide to see whether I can pay them. So you do some of them. So now you are moving into an area where you'll be able to reduce a bit the sharp appreciation so that you can stay within a particular band. So it is very important that we look at it that way. If that is where we are getting the gains from, then we can gradually decide to minimize the appreciation so that it doesn't trigger the other side of the economy for us to have problems subsequently.
We'll leave it here. Thank you very much, Professor William Babwateng, as ever, for your insights. Thank you. He's the head of Department of Economics, University of Ghana, and he's giving us some insights there. So while we can rejoice over the appreciation, long-term stability should be the goal.
Yeah.
Because that helps with predictability, and also with most policies, there are always new winners and losers. So when the currency appreciates too quickly too, exporters may suffer as well. But so I tend to agree that we need to have a long-term view. But I think it's refreshing, because for me, because we are an import-driven economy, and because inflation is possibly the biggest problem we faced in the past 2 years, to see inflation trending downwards and the cost of the dollar also trending downwards is positive. How to sustain that, or to prevent the spikes? Because I think the problem in 2022 was the quickness. Guy, remember, you were in my house around September 2022. Within a week, the cost of the dollar jumped from 7 to 8 to 9 to 10. I mean, by December, it was so crazy, you know. So in a sense, if you have the appreciation also too sudden, it may not really help. So what you want is to have
this guy.
No. That's what he's saying, and I agree with him.
Look, the point. I understand all the.
No, Sky, you have to be nuanced though, because you see, if you just say let the currency appreciate, we are happy it's appreciating, and we hope it's sustained. But you see, stability is more important than anything else.
Yes, stability. I think we can achieve the two at the same time. You know.
No, we are not criticizing what's happening. We are just cautioning that you need to have it. So you need to sustain it.
Yes, we agree. But the idea of, Professor, I respect his views. My good friend, I love him. He's that great thing.
You are talking as a consumer now.
Yes, of course. But this
as a mortgage payer.
The
I get you.
The thing should calm down.
Is that those who are sending remittances?
So for those of you who pay
mortgage and Charlie, it's not easy.
It's good now.
Yeah, because by now, ideally, these things, some of them should have been paid off. Something that you were using, say, a few Ghana cedis to pay. Now you have to mobilize a lot of money to be able to pay. And it's not easy. So I understand professors, intellectual approach, but the practical sense. Look, we want these things to come down so that we can pay the thing and feel free. Because Charlie, it's not easy like that. It's not easy. Charlie, it's not easy.
So you don't want you want the because it's the thing with phenomena is that you see generally when something happens too quickly, it's not sustainable. Which is why we look at what we call time series.
Yeah.
Look at trends.
I agree.
Trends are a more powerful tool for prediction than the current situation. Which is why when you're analyzing anything, you need to look at a long-term view for investment as well. So what we are saying is that, and the other thing is that because this strengthening of the Cedi is multi-factors, there's what is happening to the dollar and what we are doing.
Yeah.
If we continue doing what we are doing, I think it will help us. Yeah. We don't know if Trump's policies, how long it will last. Because Trump, we are not really sure how he thinks. And I think some of that is also affecting the dollar itself. A lot of people in the market, because markets work with predictability. So when an analyst wants to invest, he says, okay, how will the US government behave for the next 6 months? Nobody really knows what Trump will do in terms of the way he changes his mind. So it's affecting his currency. All right. And we are doing other things, and this is what Trump is doing, which is why even though the dollar is falling against all major trade partners, some African countries are not benefiting that much. So I'm saying that I agree with Bam Boateng that we should do what we are doing and do it sustainably, because Trump may change his mind, and that can reduce the rate of appreciation of our Cedi.
Well, I agree to a large extent with some of the things you've said, except to say that, look, you listen to other economists express views on what Trump is doing, and they tell you that there's a method to that madness. And I'm using the phrase advisedly. People assume that he's being erratic, but there are people who have deconstructed his approach, and they seem to think that it is good for the U.S. economy.
Okay.
I am not going to go into that debate. What we have to do is to ensure that we are making the cost of living much, more affordable for the Ghanaian, consumer.
Yeah.
We go out to bring things into the country, and we know how painful it is to pay through our noses to get the things into the country. The cost of living is really high. People tell you that, they are matching their rent to the rate of the dollar, and people are struggling. Those of us who have gone in for loans in order to be able to put up a few places to live, the cost of paying back is biting. So what I will want,
You are happy.
yes,
The dollar should fall
If it will fall to even $1 to $1, it's better, because we can then be able to breathe small. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You get your small,
It's true.
and everything
Everything is dollar denominated in Ghana now. So school fees. So imagine somebody's paying school fees in USD. This would be a good time to pay in advance, because he was going to pay 16. Let's assume he's paying $1,000 times 16, but now it's 13. So it's saved 3,000 cedis.
3,000 Ghana cedis.
So let's talk to Apia Adomakukusi of CATS International. Two angles from him. His reaction to what GUTA has done. I think GUTA's view is a bit unprecedented. I've never seen GUTA ask members to lower prices, so it's unprecedented. And Apia and his team have been working on consumer protection, and they've actually done some reports on this. So he's been talking about this for a while, so I guess you'll be happy with this. But the other issues around whether PURC is using the lower dollar rate, because your tariff, don't forget, tariff rates increase in May.
Yeah.
And they use the dollar as part of the calculation formula. And the Cedi has been strengthened against the dollar for the past 1 month. Yeah. So is the PURC being tone deaf to what is happening? We'll deal with some of that. But Pia, thanks for joining the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard, and your listeners.
Let's start from the positive. The strengthening of the Cedi against the dollar is great, and I suspect that you are happy with GUTA for the announcement they've made, because I haven't heard GUTA asking members to lower prices in my life. I don't know if you've heard them do that before. So obviously what Dr. Obi and his people are doing is a positive step, isn't it?
Yes, it's a positive step in which we need to amplify the message across the country, so that all traders and businesses will also, those who are not even member of GUTA, will also comply with such welcoming news.
Do you think it will work though? Because in Ghana, prices never come down, they go up.
It may work or it may not work. But one way that statistical service can also do is that they can also start taking monitoring prices from FOB, from the port, and then add all taxes and then margin on it, and then start publishing recommended prices of goods and services that people normally consume. Those items that fall in our consumption basket that are used to calculate inflation. So once people see the gap between what the statistical service is listing and what is in the market, that would even put more information before the cost consumers. Because currently, it is more or less like information asymmetry. The businessmen know more about their prices and the price build-up than the consumer. So when you go to the market, and let's say they say that this bottle water is, let's say, 10 cedis, the consumer will have to buy it or go to somewhere which may be 9 cedis. However, if statistical service says that after adding your profit and all your margins to it, a bottle of water should not cost above 6 cedis, 50 pesos, that information would also cause the businesses to start, coming closer to what the statistical service has published. So in this period, we need to see the work of Ghana Statistical Service in terms of price monitoring and price publication.
Now, government agencies like Customs and PURC have come under criticism. Let me start with Customs. A gentleman just sent me his, I don't know what they call that thing. Sky, what's the name of this document? That thing that has your, I don't know if it's a way bill or whatever. He's imported something and Customs are calculating his duty. He has a name. He says, Bernard, Customs are using a dollar rate of 13.9, although the BOG rate as of last week was 13.4. So it seems as if even state agencies have been overtaken by the rate of depreciation of the dollar against the cedi, and therefore they are slower to give the benefit to importers. So this importer is being asked to pay a tariff calculated using 13.9 cedis to the dollar. Whereas, as of the whole of last week, it had come down to even 13.4. The bill of lading. Should customs not be called out for this? Because if the BOG is giving 13.4, why are you letting people use 13.9? Therefore, they pay more.
I think it's very wrong on the part of customs to charge rates that's higher than what BOG has announced. And also, I think there is a redress mechanism. If you are a victim of this excessive charging by customs, there is a procedure that the tax administration court where you can appeal. And once you appeal, they should be able to refund your money to you. Unfortunately, GRA and our tax authorities do not tell consumers what are their rights in terms of when you have a problem. For example, if you import a goods into the country and the goods is over assessed, in order not for you to pay more demurrage, you pay the money, or I think you are supposed to present a banker's draft. And once the case is adjudicated at the tax arbitration, and it is found out that customs overcharge you, you will get your refund. I think that we need Ghana Revenue Authority to tell consumers their right when it comes to some of these discrepancies.
All right. What about the PURC? Because again, they, I think, use a certain 3-month period because they calculate the tariff for electricity and water with the exchange rate being factored into the calculation. Now, the cedi has been strengthening against the dollar since April 12, sometime in April. They proposed an increase in our tariffs, which was to take effect from 3rd May. But the current rate of the dollar means that the dollar rate they use is not fair to us. Do you not think the PRC should recalculate its tariff on the basis of the new exchange rate we are seeing?
Yes, I think that PRC even have to stop the second quarter tariff adjustment because all the variables they use inflation rate of about 22.9. Now inflation is almost 21%. The USD rate that they use was 17. Now it is 13.2. Even the gas, the average weighted price of a gas that PURC used was 7.6. Now at the world market has come to 6.3. And also we've seen that the crude oil is also coming down. When all of these factors are trending down, it makes no sense for PURC to maintain this tariff adjustment. I think businesses and civil society like CAT must come in and also the media must also urge the PURCs to postpone its tariff increment, at least for the for this quarter, and then once in the next quarter, if the variables go counter, then they may decide to recalculate and come up with the new tariff, because this is going to allow for over recovery. And once over recovery, consumers don't get anything in terms of what they are paid for. Meanwhile, anytime there's under recovery, they will ask us to pay for the under recovery, and all the levies will be charged against consumers. I think that we expect PRC to do what is needful in this positive time for Ghanaian consumers.
But beyond calling on customs, PURC, do you suppose there should be a change in the law? For example, I know that at the port they change the customs rate every Tuesday. Okay, yes. Do you think it is fair to say, look, since the dollar is so expensive in our imports, maybe there should be a more regular change when it appreciates, so that the consumer benefits, and there should be a less regular change when it depreciates? Do you understand me? Because if you want the consumer to benefit, when the dollar rate is falling, then they should change it more regularly. Because if I'm importing a car, and as of last week it was 13.9, and this week is 13.4, I mean, I could save a bit of money, right? Whereas if the cedi is depreciating, then that one they can delay because that one it will not benefit me. Would it be fair for us to move for such a law to get the customs people to do that?
Yes, I think that is the best with regards to a country that is more sensitive to the value of the dollar, because we do import more, and to be able to also ensure that there's a price stability in the market and inflation is also maintained. I think that customs should be quick to pass on the Cedi appreciation against the dollar. However, anytime the prices of the Cedi is depreciating on a regular basis, it is fair and reasonable for customs to use even a 2-week window, so that it can also help stabilize things and not push pressure on Ghanaian consumers. And I think that this is a very good recommendation that will also push it through Ministry of Finance during their mid-term media budget review this year.
Just finally, how is the fight for more consumer rights going? I know you've done a lot. You've come up with a report on about 12 sectors or so. You are looking for money to do more. I don't get the sense that Ghanaians, beyond complaining, are actually supporting this fight for consumer protection. Meanwhile, if you listen to my show, almost every day, somebody's complaining, whether it's about ECG, Ghana Water, road things. There's all kinds of dissatisfaction with quality of service from both public and private sector agents. But beyond sending text messages to radio stations, I don't really see lawsuits. I don't see people donating or contributing to the legal work that people like you do. I'm not even sure people will protest over poor customer service from state agencies, right? So what is the missing link here? Because in some countries, people take the kind of thing you talk about very seriously. But I feel like in Ghana, we've accepted it to be normal. And therefore, whether we are mistreated at the ports, at the borders, at the DVLA, by Ghana Water, we just take it like that. What do you think is happening?
Yes, I think for many years, Ghanaians have been subjected to this unfair business conduct. And so for Ghanaians, we've not seen the alternative. And so people have taken this conduct to be the normal. And so people will not even complain about it. About a month ago, MultiChoice came up with a tariff adjustment that giving Ghanaians just 1 week. We protested, but yet MultiChoice went ahead and then increased the tariff. 2 weeks ago or so, Telesur gave Ghanaian broadband users just 48 hours with regards to tariff adjustment. CAT protested and then they backed down. Just last Thursday, Telesur has come back to give Ghanaian 3-week notice concerning when their new tariff adjustment is going to talk. There's a saying that one can say, I think Ghanaians need to be very outspoken. And Michael Jackson has this song that don't stop till you get enough. And I think Ghanaians, wherever you go and unfair conduct, business are not trying to do what is right. You as a consumer, you have every right to demand what is right and even back out from the services or the goods that you are buying until we start letting businesses know that we control the power of the purse. And so if you are not meeting up the standards, of course, we will withdraw, we will not buy your goods and your services. And once business start to feel this heat, I'm sure that they will start to do what is right. But in the long run, we need a consumer protection law to protect consumers because there's a lot that is going on in the country that is not fair against consumers. And I hope that President John Dramani Mahama, as they plan in the manifesto and also the 2025 budget, that they are going to work on the consumer protection and the competition law this year. We hope that government will keep to the words and then get these two laws in place to protect consumers against unfair business practices.
Thank you, Api Adomakukusi, who's the head of CAT West Africa, a consumer protection institution. It's 16 minutes past 9. I have many comments on this. I'll come back after the break and read it. Two points of correction before I take the break. So I'm informed that the customs review the rate every Tuesday. So they haven't done anything wrong until tomorrow. So today is Monday. So they will review the dollar rate for the duty tomorrow to reflect what happened this week. So so that's number one. Number two, I said initially that I'd never heard GUTA ask for price
in
reduction.
2008.
A listener, one friend of mine, a scientist, a research scientist, said, Bernard, GUTA has asked for reduction in previous years. I checked with ChatGPT, and they said, yes, GUTA has on multiple occasions urged its members to reduce prices of goods and services in response to favorable economic conditions, such as the appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi against the dollar. So it is wrong for me to say this. They actually said in December 2022, GUTA's Vice President Clement Boateng appealed to traders to adjust their prices downwards to reflect the cedi stabilization against major currencies. So that's correct. Maybe they've done this in interviews, but I had never seen a full statement. So maybe, but I stand corrected. I stand corrected on this. So thank you. This is not the first time GUTA is asking for price reduction. So point well noted, correction made. When we come back, we have your reactions to the issues on hand.
Trying to read text is not coming through. I'll give you a very typical example of what's happening now. See, it's a real estate developer. Just about 3 weeks ago, I changed $20,000 and I got about 310. Okay, or 315. There are about 1,000 Ghana cedis. Okay, on Friday, mind you, a ton of iron rods is 9,000, and anyway, and cement is about 125 cedis. Anyway, now this Friday, I changed $20,000 and I got 257,000 Ghana cedis. I've lost over 50,000, and that could buy about half truck load, about 500 bags, okay, of cement, and about more than 5 tons of iron. That's totally gone, free, gone. And as a result, I have to cut down labor 50%, and it's very tragic. I think it's something that, unless you actually work in industry, it's very horrific, and it's just going down. I think all we want is not just sustainability, but stability. Just leave wherever it is. Just leave it there, because I tell you what, it's very horrific.
Lots of reactions. So you can tell from the two voice clips that there are different strokes for different folks. So whilst exporters are not happy with the sudden strengthening of the cedi, importers are happy. And those who pay for things which are dollar denominated are excited. So mortgage people and people who pay school fees in USD are very happy with the appreciation of the cedi. Sky, there are some comments I wanted you to just help me read.
Yep. So this one says, good morning, Bernard. Please,
good morning.
Not be giving much attention to S&P, Charlie, and most rating foreign players. They do nothing in the interest of developing countries like ours. They bring out all these statements to create panic and speculation, which do not help us. Please, let's do something about that. This one from Francis, who is listening to us in Ashaiman. This one from Eric in Dansoman says, Ben, the country has had balance of trade surplus for some years now. So we may have to check the import-driven economy mantra.
The reason the balance of trade has been positive, but we haven't benefited, is that it is not, we have not able to retain our export proceeds.
Okay.
This is what I'm explaining. So see, let me give an example. 2023 or so, it was said that we had exported a certain amount of gold in value, maybe like 10 billion. The BOG had like 1/5 of that, because a lot of the companies, so that's why, you see,
the foreign ownership stuff.
That's part of it, the lack of retention. So I understand why they set up this gold board thing, to deal with the small scale side. But the truth is that having a trade surplus on paper will not help you if you are not able to retain the FX proceeds to shore up your currency. That is the issue that has to be addressed, which is what we are seeing with some of this.
Yeah, you know, at a certain point when they were trying to amend the mining laws and then also related agreements, I think that conversation came up strongly as to whether we should compel them to retain, portion, a sizable portion of their earnings locally, so that they reinvest here, as opposed to this idea of sending it out and then using it to pay their...
And even if you're sending it out, you need to stagger it, because I'll give you an example. Usually in March, when the financial year ends for a lot of the companies and they have dividends, they pay off their shareholders in dollars, and it affects. So let's assume there are 10 foreign banks in Ghana and a few large mining companies, and they all, of course, they do business in cedis.
Yeah.
And then when they finish the financial year, they convert their earnings into USD, putting pressure on the Cedi. And by the time they repatriate all of their money,
Cedi is in trouble.
yeah, so there has to be a way in which you can even ask them to stagger those payments in order not to be inimical. Because for me, the strength of a currency is the greatest proxy for an economy's strength globally. So let me put it, the value of your currency is the most reliable proxy of how your economy is valued globally. So a weak currency doesn't benefit anybody, even though I know that exporters can benefit. We are not fully export driven.
Yeah.
We are still an import-led economy. So we have to balance this thing around, the Cedi falling is not good. I prefer stability, but I feel the currency fell too rapidly in 2022. So if it's appreciating, if you can sustain the appreciation, maybe 12, let it get to 12 and stay there for a while, or even 10.
Bernard, the thing should come, if it comes to 117.
No, it's not.
I mean, Bernard, Charlie, the thing we can't breathe in this country.
No, but the 16 was high. But if you think about
Let it come down.
9, 10, it's okay.
Jehovah, come down.
Okay.
Let's read.
But at what point are the traders going to effect what GUTA is telling them? That's
It's an advice. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's an advice because his point is that some of them have old stock and things, so he can only advise them.
Okay, let's take more comments. Hello, Bernard. I support Richard on this one. Please, the same way it depreciated from 6 to 16 and stabilized there, it should equally appreciate back to 4 or 5 and stabilize there too. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. This one says, hello team. I agree with the Economist that to have inflation stable, it should be an all-round affair. But with remittances, I think it should be a sign for our brothers outside that our country is getting better to stay in, so they should return home and help us build our country. It's coming in from Michael in Hohwe. This one says, Bernard and team, the dollars should continue to come down. Period. Thank you. Kofi Mensah in Teshinungwa says, Bernard, the document the person sent to you is called the Bill of Lading.
Yes, Bill of Lading.
Yeah, it goes on to talk about other things. And he says that customs, they always give a dollar rate covering a 1-week period. The rate is updated in the system every Tuesday. So even if the rate changes upward or downward, it remains the same until the next Tuesday. It's mostly lower than even what the Bank of Ghana gives us. That one is from Kofi Mensah in Teshin.
Yeah.
This one says, good morning, Bernard.
Morning.
Custom, they continue to... custom duties and taxes use the BOG rate, which is updated. Okay, it's the same, essentially the same thing. Let me go to something else. This was a good morning, Bernard.
Morning.
I can confirm that the GRA is using 13.9 and it's crazy. This is a Honda CRV 2021 model duty alone. I'm yet to receive GAPOHA and the agent fee. It's from Kobe. Basically, I think he sent a photograph of the vehicle.
Yes.
Okay.
So his point is that they need to lower the thing to reflect current.
Together with the tax.
Yeah, but what you read earlier was a response that they do it on Tuesdays.
Yeah. This was a good morning, Bernard Lee. It's coming in from Kojo, who says, I believe price stability is what most businesses are observing before they decide on price reduction. Secondly, the notion that prices don't reduce in Ghana can't be true. Supply and demand always win. Do you remember when a gallon of oil was selling for over 1,000 Ghana cedis a few years ago? Eventually, a little stability and demand and supply brought the price down drastically. And this one says, good morning, City. Please, unless government introduce price check, the prices would not go down. But you remember that there was a time, I think towards the dying days of the Kufuor administration, it must have been in 2007, 6 or maybe 8, thereabout, when we had a global problem, the economic downturn, which led to almost a collapse of our Cedi and all kinds of things happened. And then when government intervened with some measures to cushion consumers, with some incentives, there was an expectation that in the markets, people will reduce prices. But people didn't. So although government had intervened with some incentives to get people in the market, women and people who import into the country to reduce prices so that we can feel it in our pockets.
Yeah.
People didn't, and it became, arguments here and there. And the question was whether the policy was even properly targeted. Yes, some people do something about their prices, but for some reason, economists normally say, is it prices are sticky upwards or downwards? I've forgotten.
They are sticky downwards.
Downwards, yeah. So when it is going up, they're happy to increase whatever and raking the profits. But once they tell you that, reduce, they don't want to reduce it.
Yeah.
They argue all kinds of things. I think it is just fair that because you go back to Turkey tomorrow with a smaller amount of CD to buy, the dollar in order to get things back into the country, it is just fair. Fair to the people you sell to, that you reduce the prices. It cannot be right that you keep saying that, you are not sure, you don't know what will happen tomorrow. Look, you took advantage of the situation and you made enough money for yourself and your family. And you have reinvested in your business. Good, all good for you and for us as a country. But the reality is that people are suffering. So once the relief is coming, if it is through government policy, we celebrate BOG's intervention, Gold Board, the things they are doing, and the government's own approach to dealing with the problem. Let us feel the impact of the relief. You stop hoarding the money and say, it is just unfair. I do know that a number of the companies in the furniture space, they are moving in that direction. So what you would have seen for 440,000 Ghana cedis previously, furniture for your room or whatever it is, this time if you go there, they're telling you it's around 30,000. In some cases, people are bringing down to 20,000.
Oh, it's coming down.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see if you go to the major importers into the country, there's some positive movement in that area.
Nice.
Yes, which is great.
Nice.
It should happen. But our people who are in the markets and who are importing rice and doing all these things, for some reason they don't want to reduce. It cannot be fair. Because we are all paying the same fees.
I lost money for the car I imported.
In principle.
Because I paid my tariff was calculated on 15.9.
Oh wow.
And at the time they said, they didn't know the currency. I mean, they thought I should pay early so that the currency would not. So I wasn't diligent. If I had looked at the trend, I would probably have said, let me wait small.
Well,
so now I have lost almost, imagine 15 to 13. So 2 cedis times the amount I paid. But once the government to benefit and use it for something better for now.
Well, better than
it's just one vehicle I imported. So if I was like a large scale importer of many things, then so it's an FX loss for me.
Yeah,
an FX loss for me.
But the reality too is that, again, that's where you buy into the predictability argument. That if he had watched and there's some method to this whole thing, then he would have said, okay, let me wait, hedge my bet, right? But the reality too is that you don't know what will happen tomorrow. And if things go haywire again, then you will now be regretting that you did not pay.
True.
So whichever way you look at it, sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it doesn't go for you. That's the whole essence of the economic space.
But the PRC points that Mr. Adomako made, on their side too, when can we see anything?
But to be fair to PRC, I think that using 3 months average is a better way. Do you know why?
Right.
If PRC were to say, well, the dollar between April and May has reduced by, say, 2 cedis, 2 cedis to $1, and therefore they are going to review their price.
Right.
There are periods where the CD depreciates quite rapidly. That would mean that PRC will have to be applying more frequent tariff adjustments upwards, which we all don't like. So I think that we should also be fair.
Right.
The reason they use the 3 months is to avoid volatility. So if the utility will benefit from the FX windfall for the first time in many years, let them do so, because for a long time, one of the reasons why in fact, one of the problems with our utilities is that they buy inputs in dollars and they sell their power in cedis, and those affect the profitability. So when you talk about ECG's losses and it's not all that is they are doing.
Okay.
Do you understand? Because you are let's assume I'm ECG and I'm buying power from maybe a power generator and I'm paying them, maybe for sake of argument, 10 cents per kilowatt hour. That has been locked in for a year. Then the CD depreciates so much. So then maybe my tariff is 2 cedis per kilowatt hour in Ghana equivalent.
and I'm charging that for 3 months. Then the cedi starts depreciating. So that 10 cents I'm supposed to pay to my guy. So some of ECG and VRS losses are not because they are not good. It's just because they. So I think Babanti's point about stability is a very powerful point. Appreciation rapidly or depreciation rapidly eventually may not be the best. I think that a long-term appreciation is better, so that we are strengthening, but it's consistent over, say, like a year. I'm talking long-term, because if PRC were to say today that they are going to reverse the tariff adjustment upwards because in the last 1 month cedi has appreciated by 60% against the dollar, then you have to also say that if the cedi depreciates, they should also change the tariff quickly. But you will not agree, because you see, in the same way that prices are sticking downwards, Ghanaian consumers are very they are not happy with tariff adjustments upwards. In fact, one of the reasons our utilities struggle is this way government always tries to subsidize.
Right.
All right.
So that's another matter.
No, it's all together. So you can't eat your cake and have
Bernard,
it. So if you say they should reduce the tariff this week because of this, be prepared to say the same when the currency depreciates and they say that every week we will increase the tariff. Will you agree?
You see, Bernard, we had this argument when it came to the petroleum sector. The argument was the dollar was affecting what we pay, blah, blah, blah. Government was coming in with subsidies. Let's remove the subsidies so that people will pay based on what's happening internationally. Well, that has been introduced. You know, has the petroleum sector collapsed? If we can use the same approach for the PURC...
No, sorry, can you repeat your point?
I'm saying that previously, when we saw government intervening when the dollar misbehaved against us, with subsidies, which they failed to pay. And Senyo Hosi and their people, kept pressing government, and then Ghanaian people were not happy with what was happening. Deregulation, people insisted, meant that, okay, let's have a way of allowing the system to correct itself economically. So that if it goes up, you pay for it. If it goes down, you pay for it. Then we have something known as the pricing window, right?
But we never really paid.
No, to a large extent, at least since we went full deregulation,
the government still had to deal with the losses. So even though you're right, even though for some time the policy was that they should reduce their subsidies, all governments have still kept it. So I am saying that
to a large extent, the impact in terms of what they pay, that's an entirely different matter. But then again, it became more predictable in terms of what happens during the pricing window and what the Ghanaian people should expect. I'm saying that, yes, this 3-month thing is some way. The PURC should not use that as an excuse.
So you're saying PURC should change?
The fuel sector tells us that it is possible to align it with what happens internationally in a way that is reasonable. It may not be 3 months. It should not be 3 months. 3 months is too long. We can make it 1 month as the oil sector people normally do. To say, oh, this is pricing window.
I'm saying that we bash the power and the utilities a lot, and I do know that, again, if you read the Pricewaterhouse report, there are many kinds of losses.
Yes, that's true.
Technical, commercial.
Yes,
but there's also FX loss.
Yes,
and I'm saying that those FX losses, for once, let them also get the FX windfall.
Which are the biggest ones?
I think it depends. Generally, the commercial are the largest.
Yes, so they should address those
in a
problems.
way, you can actually put FX under commercial, but you can also separate it as a trade loss. But what I'm saying is that, you see, if the power companies are strong, we all benefit.
Yeah,
if the utilities, like for example, Ghana Water today, you read a story that the northern region needs. Mutakeli will tell you that they need investment to do many things. It's more expensive to process water, and the tariff we pay is not commensurate with the cost of they buy chemicals to do that. So I'm saying that over the longest time, they've been making FX losses on our behalf. So if they are going to gain it for 1 month, let them take it.
But you see, that would have been compensated for if they were taking care of the commercial losses. And
but there are different losses. So,
I understand.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So Sky, if your balance sheet,
if in your area,
Sky, the fact that they are making commercial losses does not mean that they shouldn't benefit from FX gains. Because you see, that's why I think we are overstretching it. They lose technically. Technical losses could be some articulator has run through a pool
and they don't fix it in good time.
Good. A commercial loss could be, instead of collecting money from GFA or Accra Sports Stadium, they say, oh, it's Ghana's government, so we'll not charge them. Or instead of converting your meter from prepaid to postpaid, they keep it at postpaid and you're not paying bills. But there's also an FX bit
I'm not denying
where
that.
they are locked into agreements with companies, some of which are too. In fact, I will say to you that one of the things we need to do in Ghana is to review our power purchase agreements to a point where some of them are so inimical to the state. This is what tends to happen when we have a power crisis.
All kinds of
Power
agreements.
production merchants just appear with briefcases and come and give us ridiculous power proposals, which because of doomsaw and its fear, we are forced to sign. And they lock us into very, very high rates that we are not able to recover. So in trying to help the power value chain, we deal with all three sides: production, generation, transmission, and all of those. So if this windfall will help deal with their lost positions for a brief period, because you see, if their loss is reduced, you benefit. I actually think one of the reasons why ECG, they're talking of PSP, is because of this. You see, the ECG has become such a whipping boy in the public parlance. IMF will say ECG, government, ECG, everybody's whipping ECG, but your light is still on. So what I'm saying is that if they will lose when the dollar depreciates, or when the Cedi depreciates, let them gain a little.
You see, while I understand the point you are making, I will still push back because you and I sat here 2 weeks ago, was it just last week? Somebody's light has been off for the past what?
But they
4
went to
months
fix
or
it.
so. Eventually.
After we intervened.
I'm saying that we should not be shouting about things like that for them to get fixed. I get angry when I pass by and I see a whole big pipeline, water gushing out just like that. People going in, fetching it for free. And it happens for 2 weeks in some cases. They should be responsible enough to react to these things in good time. If they do that properly, then we can say that, the FX losses, then we can cut them.
But do you know that the system to put in place to even monitor that thing will also cost money?
Yes.
So, and if the company doesn't even have money, and listeners, please don't think I'm here to do PR for any of the companies. I'm just being a general devil's advocate. If the company doesn't even have money to buy chemicals to process water for you, you get it. So let's assume you're ECG MD today, or Ghana Water MD today. Your raw water volumes are lower, so the turbidity of the water is very high. So you are buying more chemicals to process your plants. You have to buy new plants and equipment. If you don't do that, investing in a system to even do this kind of monitoring is a secondary consideration. Do you understand me? At least give the people enough water to drink. It's a very complicated situation, and because the public utility, the draconian thing you can do if if Ghana Water was a private company, Ghana Water can say, you use your internet, you don't pay. MTN can cut your data, but cutting your water is a whole issue. So, for example, secondary schools. Let's assume secondary schools have not paid for water. If you are a Ghana Water company boss, you'll be very, very wicked to you and cut their water. They say, how can you keep girls in a secondary school that they've not paid their water bill? Do you want them to die? You got it. So, managing a public utility has other things that requires that. That's why it's a social thing. We should invest in it. So, if they've made losses for years, and for a brief period, they can get a windfall that they can. So, what we can say is that let's force them to invest that windfall into the system you talk about. So, you can say, okay, keep the windfall, but is it to invest in a tracking system to reduce your commercial losses? I can live with that. But to say that they should translate it back to the consumer, I think we are not being fair to them.
First of all, I think the professor had spoken that BOG leads CD appreciation. And as much as that is in theory, in Ghana, it is the finance ministry, because it is the fiscal spending that always has certain unintended impact on the cedi depreciation. So I would say that the combination of factors is government spending has not started yet. That is number one. And this is all things being equal in terms of American issues with the dollar and all those things. But however, I think that if the government plans with the gold board works, despite the fiscal spending, the cedi could be stabilized. And yes, the main issue that we want, and my wife has a small business, is stabilization. Stabilization is the stability is the key. Not whether it's 15 or 14, it's the stability whereby I can plan in the next 6 months, knowing that $1 is 14 and it's going to remain so. It helps me to plan ahead. and be able to buy or do business. That is the main thing that is really, really important when it comes to economic management or public finance.
All right. Thank you, Bequin.